the soldiers did that, they proceeded to turn this old mission into a fortress. General Cost and his men built a wooden palisade fence from the front corner of the chapel where the south wall of the Alamo actually started. Built cannon round all around the compound and put cannon on it. Now in that chapel, they took the debris from the old bell tower and the arches roof. They piled all this debris up against that part of the back wall of the chapel that was still standing. They covered this debris up with dirt and then with wood. They then had a platform in the back. From the platform out towards the front door, they built a ramp. Up the ramp they drug three heavy cannon, placed it on the platform overlooking the back wall of the chapel. General Cost and his soldiers now had somewhere between 18 to 21 cannon in and around the Alamo compound. General Cost fortified that little village of San Antonio. Now when Santa Anna was still busy down in Mexico proper, putting down the last rebellion, General Cost was beginning to have all kind of problems. The people resisted him. Finally, the people decided they weren't going to resist him any longer. They were going to form an army and drive General Cost's men out of Texas. So in December 1835, a little Texas army put San Antonio and the Alamo under siege. Now, for the first few days, nothing happened. Oh, there were little skirmishes here and there, but nothing major here at the Alamo. A lot of the Texas soldiers were getting bored. Some of them had brought their own food. They were running out. They wanted to go home. Some of the others being bored, they started drifting off, returning to their homes. One Texan by the name of Ben Milam, he stood up, grabbed his rifle, held it over his head, and he said, "We'll follow old Ben Milam into San Antonio." 300 of those Texas soldiers followed Ben Milam into San Antonio, where they started engaging in battle against General Cost's soldiers. Now, after 4 days of fighting, mostly house-to-house, street-to-street fighting in San Antonio, the fighting moved over here to the Alamo. 1 day later, for some reason, General Cost decided he would surrender. A few days later, General Cost and his soldiers were all rounded up, sent back towards the Rio Grande River in Mexico City. But when General Cost's soldiers left, they had to leave the 18 to 21 cannon. Most of their supplies, arms, ammunition, and gunpowder. Now the men who defeated General Cost decided that they had won their independence. So many of them started drifting off, returning to their homes. But that left, finally, 104 men still here at the Alamo. In the meantime, Santa Anna received word what had happened to General Cost and his men. Santa Anna was infuriated. Santa Anna had just finished putting down the last revolt in Mexico City and the rest of the country. Now Santa Anna's eyes turned to Texas. Santa Anna was so angry at what happened to his brother-in-law, General Cost, that he, Santa Anna, the commander-in-chief of the Mexican Army, president of Mexico, decided that he, Santa Anna, would raise a much larger army, and he, Santa Anna, would lead that army to Texas and teach these Texans a lesson they would never forget. Now, by this time, people were calling Santa Anna the Napoleon of the West. Santa Anna was a great admirer of Napoleon Bonaparte. Here we have Santa Anna. He is beginning to gather up a larger army and start marching towards the Rio Grande River and Texas. In the meantime, Sam Houston the commander-in-chief of the so-called Texas Army, in January of 1836, sent Colonel James Bowie with 30 men to the Alamo to remove the 18 to 21 cannon, and then blowing up, destroying the whole Alamo compound so a Mexican army could never use it. Instead, when Bowie saw all of these defenses, he decided the Alamo shouldn't be defended. Bowie even wrote a letter where he stated, "We'd rather die in these ditches than to give up the Alamo." A few days later, Colonel William Travis, 25 more men come to the Alamo. Then Bowie and Travis decided the Alamo should and definitely will be defended. Now, Bowie and Travis, being colonels, will be co-commanders. A few days later, here comes David Crockett from Tennessee with a few friends of his. Now, Crockett and his friends had only been in Texas for a very short period of time. So when they came to San Antonio and then over here to the Alamo, that's when they decided that they would join Bowie Travis and the rest of the men in defending the Alamo. In the meantime, Santa Anna's army started reaching the Rio Grande River. There they ran into General Costa and his men. Poor old General Costa's men had to turn around, come right back up here to San Antonio with the advanced elements of Santa Anna's army. They reached San Antonio February 23rd, 1836. Now, in that little village of San Antonio, about a half a mile away, there's a cathedral named San Fernando. On San Fernando's bell tower, Santa Anna had a very large blood-red banner run up, which meant, you at the Alamo, you do not surrender now, immediately no quarter will be given if the Alamo is taken by force. Now, the men of the Alamo could look over and see that blood-red banner. They knew what it meant. In defiance of that banner, Colonel William Travis fired a cannon. Almost immediately, a Mexican cannon fired back. So February 23rd, 1836, the siege of the Alamo begins. It will last 13 days. Second day of the siege, February 24th, Colonel James Bowie becomes seriously ill. This now leaves the overall command of the Alamo in the hands of 26-year-old Colonel William Travis. Now that same day, Travis wrote a very famous letter. Very, very briefly, the letter stated, "I am besieged by 1,000 more Mexican soldiers and Santa Anna. It is demanded my surrender, or the Alamo will be put to the sword. I shall never surrender or retreat. Send reinforcements." Now Travis signed that letter, and he double underlined the words, victory or death. Santa Anna now commands his artillery to begin bombarding the Alamo walls. Santa Anna's bands played day and night a very weird sounding tune called Pichuelo, which means assassin, no quarter, no mercy. The bombardment continues. Third day of the siege is the bombardment. A cold and norther blows in. It will be cold for the rest of the siege and the forthcoming battle. The bombardment continues. Every night, some of the Mexican artillery is worked a little closer to the Alamo walls. The walls started taking a terrific pounding, especially that west, and really especially that north wall. The bombardment continues. Travis has sent out messenger after messenger, seeking more reinforcements. Now, the only reinforcements the Alamo will ever receive is on March the 1st. 32 men from the little village of Gonzales, in the dead of night, slips through the Mexican army lines into the Alamo.